I wanted to talk about my friend up here. Let's bring him back here. There he is. So I'm going to play a clip of him. It's only about 5 minutes long. It's actually 7 minutes long. And he is talking. Oh boy, here I go again. This is going to be actually a vintage babble because I can feel it in me. Let me look this up first of all. He is talking about. He is doing a Bible study, let's say. He's doing the Orthodox Jewish, the Hasidic version of a Bible study. And he is talking about the book of Esther, which tells the story of Purim. And he's using it to illustrate divine providence, just like we've been doing. The totality of divine providence. That everything that happens to you, to me, is coming directly from the hand of God as the best possible thing. And he's doing it in a very beautiful Jewish context. So first of all, let me just give a short sketch of the story of Purim. Don't worry, I won't give you the whole Megillah. That's a pun for the odd Jew among you. So the story of Purim is basically the following. It takes place in Persia. There is a king. The first thing the king does as the story unfolds is he sends his viziers or his underlings to search the kingdom of Persia for the most beautiful young women to add to his harem. And they find they find a lot of them, but they also find this incredibly beautiful young woman, Esther, who happens to be Jewish. And they add her to the king's harem. This looks like bad news, right? And Esther's uncle, Mordecai, is of course not happy that his niece is added to the king's harem. It's probably not the good Jewish boy he hoped she would marry, but he tells her to keep it secret that she's Jewish. So anyway, Esther is in the king's harem. First piece of bad news. That turns out to be good news. The next piece of bad news that turns out to be good news is that Mordecai is hanging around the palace to keep an eye on Esther, to see what's happening with her, to be as close to her as he can. He raised her, I forgot to mention that, so he's essentially like the surrogate father. And so he's hanging outside the king's palace, and all of the subjects of the king have to bow down when the king passes by. But Mordecai is not bowing down because it's against Jewish law. And so his vizier, or I don't know what to call him, but his highest assistant, so to speak, whose name is Haman, sees that Mordecai is not bowing down to the king. And Mordecai is also not honoring Haman appropriately. So Haman has it in for Mordecai, and he tells the king that basically the Jews are insurrectionists. I'll leave it at that. And he convinces the king to issue an order that all of the Jews in the kingdom be killed on a certain day. That day is actually Purim. And so let me cut to the chase. So it looks like all of the Jews in the kingdom are going to be killed. But it turns out that Mordecai had overheard a couple of employees of the palace plotting to kill the king, and he reported that, and the plot to assassinate the king was defeated by Mordecai, and Esther intervenes on behalf of the Jews and tells this to the king. I think his name was Ahasuerus. And the king gets very indignant that he was going to have to, under Haman's intimidation, that he was going to have all of the Jews in the kingdom killed. And he finds out about Haman's duplicity, and he realizes that the Jews are his great friends. And he reverses the order, and instead of having all of the Jews killed, he has Haman killed, and he raises the Jews to a level of honor in the kingdom. So all of these events that looked like oy vey, terrible news for the Jews, turned out to be divine providence doing wonderful things for the Jews. Just like a couple of days ago, I think on Friday, we talked about the story of Joseph in Egypt being sold into slavery in Egypt, and how that turned out to be this great blessing, even though it looked like a disaster. So, with that background about the story of Purim, I probably didn't even have to go into that. Here we have, let me play, well, you'll see. I'll pull this up and you'll see. So let me shrink myself down. I must decrease so he can increase. And let me pull this up. And that's his name, Hevra Rav.
But every single generation is going to be a nation, Amalek, that's going to come to try to cool off.
Sorry, I'm kind of new to this. So let me go back to the beginning. This is his YouTube channel. And let me get out of the way a little bit. There we go. And let me play him, and I will be listening and I will be interrupting, as I often do, to comment if it seems to be particularly relevant. So let me start it up again.
But every single generation is going to be a nation, Amalek, that's going to come to try to cool off the fires of Torah, the fires of Emunah, the fires of Ein Od Milvadai. But it's only you that's running the whole world, Hashem. Nothing else.
Okay, it's only you that's running the whole world, Hashem. Hashem is the Orthodox Jewish name for God, because they don't want to say the name of God, so they say Hashem, which means the name instead. And that's the theme of this talk of his. It's only you that's running the whole world, Hashem. And that's the key both to happiness in life and also its truth.
Ein Od Milvadai Mamish. Says the Rebbe in Daled, Reish Yud. Ha'akara beyichud mevil simcha amitas. When a Yid knows Ein Od Milvadai, you live a life of happiness.
Okay, so when somebody knows that there is no other cause to what happens to you but God, you live a life of happiness.
When I live a life that I think that I'm doing everything, or that everything that's happening to me is, he did that and she said that, I don't have a happy life. When we know totally with absolute clarity, with your mind, and you feel it in your heart, and you live this be'emes. I don't just know it, I feel it, I experience it. Only you are doing everything, Hashem.
Okay, only you are behind everything. It's something that you know intellectually, but it should be in your heart, and it should be your full consciousness of everything that happens. And when that happens, your life is very different, and you can be happy.
There's nobody else that's doing anything to me. Nothing can happen with God without God decreeing that it should happen. I repeat that. Nothing can happen without God decreeing that it could happen. Which means the guy that punched you in the nose in the playground when you were in second grade, oh yeah, that guy. God made him punch you in the nose. Now, it could have been somebody else. He chose it. He's going to have to deal with that between him and Hashem.
Okay, now, he spoke a little sloppily, but I know that he has it right because I listened to this whole thing. He said God made him punch you in the nose. He later makes it clear God didn't make him punch you in the nose. That was his own free will, and he has to settle that with God. That's between him and God. But God arranged that it should be given that he was going to punch you in the nose, that you were there and that he punched you in the nose. So with respect to you having received it, it's coming straight from God. With respect to him having done it, that was his free will. But God wove them together, so it was God's will that he punched you in the nose. He makes it clearer later.
But that nose had to be punched.
That nose had to be punched.
Yes? As there was.
What about sin? Is that decreed by Hashem?
You have free will. I'm saying things that are happening to you. Things that are happening to you is not that you're a victim, like, oh, the world is just happening to me. There's so much of this nowadays. Everything's just happening to me. I'm just a victim of the situation. No, you're in the driver's seat. Yes. So Ruvain throws a baseball into Shimon's window. So now it smashes the window. So Shimon needed to have his window smashed. Reuven didn't necessarily have to do it. That was Reuven's free will choice to do that.
I want to answer this question because it's the heart of the issue. From Terry, thank you for the stained glass, by the way. So are you saying it is even more than God permitting you to get punched in the nose? He actually arranged it. And the answer is yes. Yes. It's an easy answer, right? It's only 3 letters. Yes. He arranged it. It would not have happened to you if it wasn't the best thing that God could have arranged to happen to you. Continuing.
But that Shimon should go down and say, Reuven, I'm gonna get him as mishpatim. No. First of all, you have a mitzvah to love.
I'm going to back up a little bit because he points out. I broke up the flow of what he was saying there.
Reuven didn't necessarily have to do it. That was Reuven's free will choice to do that.
So the bad thing, the punching you in the nose or throwing the ball through the window, was the free will of the perpetrator.
But that Shimon should go down and say, Reuven, I'm gonna get him.
But that doesn't mean that you have the right to be angry at the person who does something on purpose against you.
Mishpatim. No. First of all, you have a mitzvah to love him.
Isn't that sweet? This is coming from Judaism, not Christianity. You have a mitzvah. You have a commandment to love him. You have a commandment to love your enemy.
No, but. No. You can't even harbor bad thoughts in your heart about him.
You can't even harbor bad thoughts in your heart about your enemy.
You have to love him. The Torah says not only are you not allowed to have bad thoughts in your heart, you have to love the guy. What would the world say? The world says, come on, he deserves. He threw it through your window. He was a prankster. He pranked it. It was premeditated. Hashem threw that ball through your window. And when you finally realize that, your life is going to be so much better.
Okay, Hashem is God, remember. So the way to take it is that God threw that ball through your window. He had a reason for throwing that ball through your window.
Blaming everybody. And you realize, what was the reason why that happened? And it's a message for you. So when the ball went through the guy's window, he didn't do it. Something about you, it was coming to you. You deserved it for some reason.
Now, here's a place where we know more than he does, which is the Jews do not understand about the redemptive value of suffering. They see suffering primarily as punishment from God. So there he goes a little astray.
And any member of humanity, for that reason, starts to live this way. You live in a much happier life. Number one, there's no victim mentality, but there's the victim thing. It's all happening to me. By other people, and everyone's out to get me. The bad people. There's always bad people around. It's a sad thing when people get into this reality. Like everything's happening. Sometimes we know people that it's always bad people around. Everyone's stealing my stuff, and everyone's.
Terry, I want to engage your question, but I can't fully engage it because I think I spent over a half an hour talking exactly about this a couple of days ago. and it's up as a separate little teaching on Divine Providence. I think I have 2 of them from the last 2 weeks. It's not a violation of free will. The other person was not just a pawn fulfilling the arrangement of God, but God, with perfect knowledge, and knew what was going to happen, and basically wove together all of the events of their life and your life, so to bring about the effect that he wanted. So he just wove together all these circumstances. And if you want to know how God does that, how God is able to weave together the circumstances that are engaged in by free will, watch the other videos.
It's only Hashem. It's only Hashem. When you live that way, nobody does anything to you.
It's only God. It's only God. When you live that way, nobody does anything to you.
Hashem is doing everything.
God is doing everything.
And you start thinking like Rabbi Moshe, like, oh, so why did that happen? Yeah, I got punched in the nose. What's the pshat? But that's the bigger picture of Emunah. Because Hashem is doing everything to us.
That's the bigger picture of truth. God is doing everything to us.
For our best. We have to just figure out what it is.
For our best, and we just have to figure out what it is.
It's a game changer. This is all happening in the world of Purim. When you get to Ein Od Milvado. Ki Hashem Yisparach hu mitzias hakol. Ve'ein Od Milvado. As hu sameach simcha penimis. When you start going around that way, living your life that Hashem is doing everything for your benefit, it gives you a quiet confidence. Like, I know that I'm going in a good way. I see that Hashem is all the time helping me. He's always, even if it seems like a ball going through the window, there was some reason for that. There's a mission. There's a message He's trying to give to me. Before you start living this way, it becomes like, what? Like, He did that. But then you realize that's between Him and Hashem. That's His own free will. But that it happened to me in my life, Hashem is talking to me. Hashem would not have let it happen unless He wanted it to happen to me.
God would not have let it happen unless He wanted it to happen to me.
So imagine walking around that way. When anything happens, your stocks go down. Hashem, you must be doing this. Now maybe the message is to get out of that stock. But Hashem, nobody's doing this without you totally being responsible and running the whole system. It's so important to live this way. Everything changes. Everything. Ki hu yodeh sha'kol rak mimenu yisborach. It's all from you, Hashem. Umemela kol masha koyreloi. Everything that happens to you, v'kol masha over alav, v'kol masha yikra zeh hachi toiv sheyachal liyos. Everything is the best that it possibly could be. Everything is the best that it possibly could be. It's not an easy thing to do. At first glance, and the first time it happens, it's not computing so much. But if you start reminding yourself when these things happen, Hashem, this must be the best thing that I need. There develops a quiet confidence and a happiness very deep inside that somehow you see all these things happening, but you know that it's Hashem guiding it. It's a very special feeling to allow that to start building up inside of you. By the way, you also become a much friendlier person and more pleasant person to be around because you're not always complaining about stuff.
Well, I'm stopping him there because I will put in the description of today's show the link to the full talk. It's about a half an hour. But I was delighted to find it. And I was delighted to find it in the context of really serious Judaism. It just seems interesting to me that that's one of the, I mean, there are any number of reasons why God's doing what He's doing, but most of the time it's probably for our purification. Most of the time it is to make us better people, so we're better candidates for citizenship in heaven. And I think that's all. Remember, you just caught that at the end. It's the only time he mentioned Purim per se. But he's this teaching. By the way, he's saying the Rav. That means the rabbi. My guess is I don't know who that is, because I couldn't figure out what Hasidic dynasty he's a member of. If he's a Lubavitcher, then the Rav would have been Schneerson. That's my suspicion, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, so he's citing, what he's doing is he's reading a text from a authority higher than him, a revered earlier rabbi, and he's expounding on the text, just like I'm taking his text and expounding on it, so to speak. I wanted to talk about my friend up here.